Hello, all, and welcome to episode 4 of Enterprise Tech India Unplugged. And with us, we have Kumaran, who is a chief mentor for Tiny Magic, and we have Ram, who is a senior consultant with Virtusa. And today, we have an interesting topic for all of you folks, which is artificial intelligence. And what does it really mean for us in the region? What does it really mean for the enterprise? Does it really have any value, right? And is it something which people can really afford today? So that is what we are going to talk about today, and we will see what the our participants think about it, and let us go with that. Kumaran, what do you think AI actually means to you personally, and maybe to what do you think is relevant for the enterprises in the subcontinent?
It's actually pretty tough for me. Honestly, even though I've been around this tech and reading about AI and ML, uh, it's very tricky for me to think of some solutions. But one thing which I have been actually using AI in my day-to-day life is basically, for example, when you open PowerPoint, I used to spend a lot of time in formatting it.
Hmm.
Now, the AI, they call it Microsoft Intelligent Office Services. It's baked into Office. And
Hmm.
when I open my PowerPoint and I put the components, it actually does the formatting by itself. And that has saved me a ton of effort. Previously, something which used to take me 2 to 3 hours now actually takes me 10 minutes to get the same PowerPoint, and it's at much better quality. So that is something where I see AI actually impacting my life directly.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So, probably I think we need to think of some use cases like that, which actually makes a direct impact to how people work. Another thing which I could think of is, for example, something as simple as when we open up WhatsApp today.
Hmm.
You click on text to speech. Voice to speech has come a long way from the dragon which used to work flakily.
Right.
Now,
Right.
now I would actually say the first step in automation in enterprises is to use these AI services which are already there.
Right.
Create a face for it, create an end point for it, so that you
Hmm.
can develop new things than telling I will develop an AI system with this algorithm and deep learning for my enterprise itself. To me, I'm a very simple guy, and I would
Hmm.
think that is the first step if I go in an enterprise is to
Hmm.
use an existing AI service. How can I surface it to the end user benefit? That's how I look at in the enterprise today for the
Right.
predominantly majority common man industries.
Right, right. So, Ram, do you think there are some examples which your enterprise is looking at for solutions, either internally or even targeting your customers in the region? If you have any, I believe most of your customers are outside the region, but still within the
Yeah.
organization.
Yes, yes. The ours is a trading platform. So
Mm.
typically for these kind of things, application which are interfacing with, the clients who are the, account holders themselves. The typical AI element is the chatbot, right? Like say, for example, they log in and if they want to get any answers, most of the time, during offshore hours and all, wherein we cannot engage a real person, okay, answering, the customer's questions. Of course, since it's a trading platform and they are going for international trading nowadays, it has to be open round the clock. Okay, for certain reasons, if they can get some of the answers immediately, done, questions answered immediately instead of waiting for a real person during the actual business hours and things like that, it will be of great help. And that's when this chatbot comes into picture, wherein I can post some of my concerns, and based on various combinations, the artificial intelligence throws some answers to them, and it will also ask whether we have answered your concerns properly, and subsequently, based on the customer's response, it again intelligently infers it, and it provides various solutions and suggestions, right? And of
Right.
course, the success of this, comes along with the concept of mission language also. Nowadays, you may see that AI always goes with, this ML, okay, hand in hand. So
Yes.
artificial intelligence is not effective as long as there is a machine learning component, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
instead of you, considering the rules, for throwing off various combinations and suggestions based on the user input, the machine should learn itself,
Right.
based
Right.
on the pattern, and it should try to come out with its own set of, combinations, and it should make the artificial intelligence more effective. So nowadays, artificial intelligence by itself is not significant unless it is combined with the capabilities of machine language. So I feel that
Sure.
both of them are being used nowadays, particularly in trading platform or any kind of banking sector for that matter, typically in this chatbot implementation.
Right. I think chatbots is a very good example of AI being really made useful for the people who are not really connected with technology as such, right? People who need
Yes,
help, and I believe now there is enough tools available to for people to really turn this around very quickly. Now, building a chatbot today is can be doesn't have to be a multi-year effort, because now
right.
services are available from various cloud service providers to help you build chatbots, and all you need to do is plug into their services. So, Kumaran, have you come across this chatbot kind of a requirement from the people who you interact with?
Um, Chatbot, yes, there. I think there is enough and more needs for doing a chatbot.
Mhm.
Uh, um, but specifically in the past 2 3 months, I cannot recall where I can. Somebody has asked for it, but
Mhm.
I've experienced it. For example,
Okay.
I order regularly from Swiggy.
Right.
Now, when I had a complaint, there is a chatbot which even takes care of refunding the order. So the initial 5 6 questions, right? Was there
Right.
a problem with the order and things like that? The standard questions that's asked.
Yes. Yes.
So it's kind of a response to that is also baked into it. So it's I think it's a combination of AI and uh, normal IVR kind of a thing, right? Option one, option two. They have done a mixture of both. Okay, so
Right.
that's a thing which I've seen a difference, especially in the past 6 months. I think it's a new feature that they have rolled out.
Right. So actually, I want to share one example of AI, which I was recently in China for some time, and it's amazing actually what they have done uh, in the field of facial recognition. Now you may say there are a lot of privacy related things around facial recognition, but you see, if you're in a public space, you are already being captured in cameras all over the place, right? So the example which I saw was, so we were supposed to visit a large building which was like maybe 40 floors, and you can imagine a 40-floor building would have huge amount of traffic in and out of people, just the number of people. Now if you imagine how many security guards you need to check the people going in and out, right, and checking their ID cards whether you are a authorized person to go in or not, right? So what they have is they have an array of cameras there, and they have an
Hmm.
array of screens there, right? So the moment you step into that range of those cameras, they start capturing who you are and matching you with either you are an employee or you're a visitor, right? So the moment the algorithm recognizes that you are not an employee, it will start flashing your face on the screen, right?
Wow.
So the
Okay.
right. So and it's like screens are there everywhere, so you will yourself also know that you are being noticed, right? So it's
Okay.
like you quietly go and walk to the guard and say, I need a visitor pass and need to meet so and so person and all, right? So the see the amount of effort which has reduced, and the accuracy which they have got to the level that it is maybe 5,000 people are like just walking in, and they don't need to do anything, and they don't need to check anybody's ID card. They just walk in, and if you are not the authorized person, your name will
Your
your
face will
photo
show up.
face will show up there. So this, check out this person, right? And
Hmm.
that is an instant picture, and it is not even a blurry picture, or it actually perfectly captures the moment which is going to help you recognize, right? So from the video, it is pulling it out from the live video feed, it is pulling it out and showing it to the guards, Then okay, get hold of this person.
And
Right?
what I loved about what you just said, right, is about altering behavior. So there were no user education. I think that's another part of digital stuff, right?
Yeah.
There's no user education. There's no manual.
Yeah.
There's no manuals like that, right?
Yeah.
So when it pops up automatically, it becomes evident that I have to go and talk to the security guard. It's
Yes.
not like our Indian scenario where you put a traffic light and you need a traffic cop to make sure they follow the red signal.
No, obviously, you see, they had at least 4 or 5 guards, but the amount of traffic is still not enough for them to have a,
Manuals.
even a have a. So what they have eliminated there is there that whole turnstile, scan your card kind of thing, right? You don't need that anymore. So the flow keeps on happening the way it is, and the so just to relate to another example from China. So they have a way of processing your immigration, right? So if you come to through immigration, you show your passport, and somebody reads it, and they spend like 10 minutes looking at you, and the queue grows. So what they have done is, so they have put up a self-service terminal as soon as you enter. He says, "Come here, scan your passport, and scan your fingerprints." That's all. So which
Okay.
is a sort of a no brainer kind of a thing. It says, so the moment you put your passport in for scanning, it starts talking to you in the language of your country.
Wow.
So
Okay.
right, so it says, for me it is because the official language is Hindi. You start talking to me Hindi and says put your fingers here and scan it and all this. So obviously it doesn't work for everybody in India because not everybody understands Hindi. So but at least they have made that effort, right? So it will talk to you in that language of at least the official language of the country. So and that is scanned, and then when you go to the immigration, they are not spending too much time doing that process for you, right? So
Oh,
which
that's
is
all already done. It's just like
yes.
verification. Yes, you are correct.
Yes.
Okay, just move on. Like
Yeah, so they will
probably a
not spend
minute.
too much time. Yeah, probably a minute or so, and say, okay, maybe just ask why are you here or whatever. Whatever, you cannot really always have a dependence on a computer to really judge and say, right? So they will do that. So that's I believe that's a good example of AI, right? And computer vision as such, right? So computer vision, I believe, is a great place for enterprises to look at, right? So the example I gave was just authentication of gate entry, but I believe in manufacturing there are so many opportunities for computer vision to just be used for, let's say, fault detection, right? You say, okay. In fact, one of the examples we saw was that how do you figure out if somebody if there was an accident, right? How do you figure
Hmm.
out if there's an accident, right? In a crowded area, how do you figure out there is an accident? How do you alert without somebody calling? How do you have a, because in especially in large let's say a train station, right, where large
Correct.
number of people are going in and out, and somebody trips over or somebody falls, right, until you have so many people monitoring and doing it, you need to have something which is based on computer vision and say, okay, something bad has happened, there's a commotion, and we need to send help immediately, right, without somebody actually requesting it. And computer vision, I believe, can really in public areas, and I think this is an opportunity for enterprises in the subcontinent, because that is going to become the way we get smart cities, right? So how do you figure out uh, how do you figure out how it has how somebody's met an accident, or there is an accident on the road, right? So that is one thing which I believe has. So now you can debate about whether that is invading your privacy, or somewhere you are being recorded, but the fact of the life is you are being recorded every day. The moment you post your picture on Facebook, you are now part of this public memory which is being created on the internet. So what do you think about the privacy aspects of such a solution, especially when it's being used?
I think it's too early days.
Mhm.
Let's get something. I would, when things are too complex, rather than One of the things which I've learned as an architect is to actually put stuff into production. If you have
Mm-hmm.
doubts, do it at a smaller scale. So
Right.
let's get something into production, see what is happening, and then make a call based on that. So I
Right.
would say, yes, privacy is important, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I will reduce the scope of my use case,
Right.
try it out, see how the rubber hits the road,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's getting grip or whether it's smelling or it's burning.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on that, I'll take the next step. So I'll take it as simple as that.
Right. Right. So what about you, Ram? Anything which you experienced in your thing around computer vision and things around privacy, which you have heard your customers talk about? I think you are on mute, Ram. I think. Okay. Okay. Can you hear
Am I
us?
audible now?
Yes. Yes. Now you're audible. Okay.
Okay. So I was saying that, I hear from many of my, customers as well as my friends, right? They really value their privacy, okay? And it's not just here, it's a global concern, ideally speaking. But again, they have to strike a balance between, the benefits that may get out of these versus, the problems they may have to face because of this privacy breach or whatever. So in my opinion, or in general, people are coming up with this thought, like if there is a kind of transparency, or if they tell it up front, like such and such things are getting captured, and you have to do such and such things to ensure that if you really want to honor your privacy over the benefit, you have the facility to modify some of the configuration so that you will lose the benefits whatever you're not very much interested in, and at the same time you can maintain the privacy also. Okay, so if that kind of honest, transparent details are offered before I use any of the technologies that I'm enforced to use, right? So
Right.
that way they are okay to that. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
the only problem here is, you're not supposed to, take up some technology or it should not be enforced on you unless you have a way to work around, to ensure your privacy also, if that is your priority, right?
Right.
So that is the main thing that they are talking about. They really don't want to go against the technology or the benefits they gain out of these, and at the
Mm-hmm.
same time they also want the ability to maintain their privacy in case if they feel that that's more important than the benefits that they gain out of. The choice should be given to them instead of being enforced on them. So that is the only thing they want to talk, from the privacy angle. Other than
Right.
that, I think we are good with all the
Right. Right.
advancements or benefits we gain out of it.
So one example which I just thought of was how some of the productivity tools are using AI to benefit the individuals, and especially in the enterprise. I'm not talking about uh, Google reading your email and giving you updates. And for example, if you today if you book a ticket and it comes to your Gmail account, Google will actually read it and give you the update that your flight is at so and so time, and it will put it in your calendar and all those things, which is definitely productivity, but it depends on your privacy requirement. But from organization perspective, if you have a tool like that, it actually really helps because, for example, when I send out a mail requesting so and so, can you send me this information by tomorrow, right? Now I can put a flag on that mail and say check on follow up on this and this date, right? And then we'll do a pop up for that person and do all the things. Instead of that, I just don't do anything, and I let my AI read my mail and say, okay, if I've requested anybody for some information, just tell me about it and say you need to follow up because you said so and so thing in the email. Now, because that is all official work, so privacy is not really a concern here because two people are concerned. This is organization work. So now, as within the enterprise, I don't really expect privacy, right? That My mail,
Right.
whatever I'm using my email for, is not really private. This is property of the company I'm working for, right? So in that scenario, I believe privacy has little concern, but it can really increase the productivity of the people. I don't need to keep track of making checklists. I can just, if I send a mail to somebody, or even if I say in
Mm,
chat, it'll tell me, so in the chat you said to follow up on this date, right? And it automatically says, okay, today you have a follow up with these people because yesterday in an email or in a chat you said all these things to those people, right? So which I believe is a great case for invisible AI, right? So this is where I believe the AI should be more invisible to the people who are actually getting the benefit out of it, rather than becoming a hindrance, right? If, for example, if you do a bad version of a chatbot, right? So
Yeah.
examples, right? Say the same questions are being repeated. I'm
yeah,
just going round in
sure.
circles, right? So the implementation part from the enterprises, they have to figure out that this should be good enough for actual person to really feel that this is not interfering. And although people always understand that they're talking to a machine, right? I don't,
Correct.
I don't, I don't think people particularly mind they're talking to a machine if they get their job done. But
Sure.
if
Right.
the machine is going down in circles, I believe things may not work, right? So what about text analytics? What about text analytics? So what I gave an example of text analytics where AI is basically inferencing your whatever text you have input in your shared files, in your email, everywhere. This text analytics is a big part of AI which can be sort of used in all enterprises, I believe. What do you think, Kumaran?
I think the PowerPoint which I said now actually
Mhm.
does that pretty well. So
Okay.
depending on the text I've given, it generates images which matches that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so if I had a lot of text like looking for a change, need a traffic light, and things like that, it actually picks up an image which kind of matches those words.
Right.
So it's not just it picks up some random image and puts that. I Yes, that is one great use case, and I think the automation tools like UiPath or Automation Anywhere
Mhm.
nowadays use them to do whether it is exceptional handling of payments or approval. There is some amount of usage in that. So definitely that is a interesting use case.
Right. So I think within the subcontinent also there is a need uh, for solutions to be brought up where AI is actually benefiting the people on the street, right? So where either it helps them, or you see, of course, we have obviously because of the size of the population and the crowds and everything, right? So there are a lot of unique challenges which are there. Is there something which you think of enterprises have an opportunity to build on what AIs can actually solutions can help in the real world scenario? What do you think about it, Ram? Do you think of some scenarios where it could be really helpful?
Yeah, I mean, the existing, infrastructure in terms of, identifying people who are breaching the traffic rules by capturing their photos and sending an automated, mail to, the corresponding person, right? Who, based on the records, whatever captured in their licensing plate or,
Mhm.
all those things, that is already existing, right? These are some of
Right.
the real world examples, okay, wherein there is no manual intervention. No one has to check whether this guy is, going over speed, and
Mm-hmm.
there is no need for a person to argue like, this guy went without helmet and things like that. Everything is captured, and using that speedometer kind of, setup, or the webcam, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all those things, I mean, the camera, the street
Mm-hmm.
cameras and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
with all those things, I think all these artificial intelligence are already playing a, vital role in, day-to-day common man's activities. Okay, but I think there can be, furthermore, like what you just mentioned. What I see as a benefit here in case
Mm-hmm.
of AI is you're able to open up a better experience, for the people. Like the one that you mentioned, right? When I go to, the immigration center, I'm able to hear my own mother tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, from someone. Obviously, if it is a human being, they cannot afford to place a person who is speaking Hindi, okay,
Right, right.
in the immigration center, or
Uh,
for that matter, from every language, right?
right,
So with artificial intelligence, they are able to offer this kind of, experience. Okay, rather they are anyways going to get their job done. They will get the
right.
immigration done. They will move out. But the kind of experience that they get out of this AI is the main significance, is what I'm thinking. So from that perspective, I agree that they should come to common man as much as possible to improve their experience, or their level of life and things like that. So we should go further towards that. But whatever is now we have now is kind of sufficient, but I think we have still more area to explore there.
Right. Right. Kumaran, anything you want to add there before you share your book recommendation for today?
I think again it's the same thing which I will just say, right? Let's just go do something,
Mm-hmm.
use an existing service,
Mm-hmm.
start getting a feel for whether it's working or not or what's happening, and then take it from there. It's too complex a topic to be just decided among three people or
Right.
in a conference room.
Right. Right. So Jeff, while you think about your recommendation for the book, I want to give one example of a startup in Bangalore, which has actually tried to use artificial intelligence for waiters in restaurants. So which I thought was a very interesting thing for, because training waiters for a restaurant actually is an art. It takes time, because for the waiter to understand what dish goes with what, and what additional revenue opportunities could be there for the restaurant, right? So this is one example where the restaurants, what they do is, so they build this point of sale solution for the restaurant, where they have all the menu items, and this gives billing, all the regular mechanics of running a restaurant it does. But over and above that, so they produce this tablet kind of interface for the waiters to go and take the order. The waiters actually see the the pop-up of what dish goes with what, right? And they can actually start talking about to the, so do you want to order this along with this, right? So, and this is, so the waiter doesn't really have to know what the dish actually is. It just pops up on his tablet, and that becomes a good way for that restaurant to earn more, at the same time not spend too much time training the waiter of what goes with what. And I thought that was a very good example of AI being used in a scenario which is very widely used. You see, Bangalore has thousands and thousands of restaurants.
Right.
And
And actually, it's kind of interesting, right? To be specific, you could do the same thing with a rule-based thing. If
yeah, yeah,
butter naan is there and non-veg, then give chicken.
yeah,
But
yes,
where it gets AI is
yeah,
because the application can learn from when somebody orders butter naan, what is the typically most popular dishes added.
Mm,
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes,
Okay, so it need not be a data entry thing. If it's data
yeah.
entry thing, then it becomes automatic.
Yes, yes. I think that's a big part of AI. Like we were discussing earlier, that if you have enough money, you can build a rule-based thing, right? You put in the investment and design your rule-based algorithm, right? Whereas all this needs to do is, this will work for any restaurant. They don't even need to know whether it is an Indian restaurant or an Italian restaurant, right?
Yeah.
So the algorithm will always work, right? So which is
Yeah.
the benefit of AI.
A friend of mine took some of his visitors from North India, telling, "Come, let's experience South India," and it turned out to be a complete disaster.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Why?
the quality of food was good.
Mm-hmm.
There was no problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what happened is lot of those waiters were from Northeast or Biharis like that.
Right, right.
They have absolutely no idea. First, they will give the kheer, then they
Right.
will give the papadam, and then they will. So it'll be like they'll just go around. Whoever is
Yeah.
free, whatever is there, they'll come put it on that plate and go,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
on the leaf and go, right?
Right.
But that's not how it is done. You have to give the chips first, and then you have to
Yeah.
give the pickle next, then you have to give the
Yes.
salt, then
Right.
so there's a sequence to do it, right?
Right. Right. Right.
So one of the things which tech can probably do is, like, for example, you want to do AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
Assume that you put cameras on top of the tables,
Right. Right.
okay? And it will direct table 3 chambar chutney in first chair.
Mm-hmm. Right.
As people are eating, right? You can
Right.
actually use that to detect, okay, the chutney has got over. So a message will pop up. Table 3, chair 1 needs chutney. Please put it.
Right. Right.
It's
And
not a big, it's not an
it could
Einsteinian
be
solution.
it could be in an ear of the waiter also, right? So it doesn't have to have a screen,
Correct.
right? It could be audio based.
So as I was thinking, right? I was thinking this is what it's actually pretty simple, right? Depending on the plate. Now he's finished the samba, then he'll say rasam and chair 4, table 6. It's actually not that complicated. Somebody
It's
puts
not,
their mind to it. I think a month or two will be more than enough to get something like this rolling out.
yeah, this is excellent use of computer vision, right? It's where you can say as long as you can see the plate of the person, you can figure out what is happening.
By the way, there is one company, they have already done it. So this guy runs a rest hotel or solution for hotels in
Mm-hmm.
Chennai,
Mm-hmm.
where they have this in the corridors. So
Mm-hmm.
they find a empty plate, right? So it will then direct the server to tell that housekeeping to say, go to second floor, room number 32, there is plates to be picked up. So you will never have those stinking, dirty plates, which even you find in
Outside,
five-star
outside.
hotels. Yes,
Yes, yes, yes. So
beautiful.
do you know this person or this company?
I will
Maybe we can invite them for a chat,
that, no? Okay, sure. I'll get them.
right? Right. So that is what we want to do on this podcast, right? We want to get those solutions out and
I'll
people talk about stuff,
I'll get
right?
them. I'll get them.
Right.
I'll get the context and then we can use that. Yes, sure.
Right. So have you thought of the book which you want to recommend for today?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty old book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a book called The Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge.
Okay.
Okay, Peter and Senge, Senge, Peter Senge.
Okay.
So he talks about something like how small steps can give you maximum leverage for benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And the tricky part is those small steps are not that visible typically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a great book to identify these places of opportunity. So in the case that you just said, Deepak,
Mm-hmm.
ability to help an audience choose the menu is that small step. Just for that small step, you're replacing it UI. But then it removes the capability that is needed for the waiter or the customer to decide on that. So that is transformational. The amount of cognitive cost is saved is huge.
Right. Right.
So that book actually kind of helps you look at how to think differently, right? As you started, it's about
Right.
solving a problem, thinking differently so that you can identify that small step which will give you that maximum leverage. So it's a great book to go. And the beauty is it's actually a pretty old book.
Right.
Ironically, a couple of decades later, it's relevant for a digital transformation. It's a great book to read.
Small steps. Is this it? Small steps?
Identifying the small steps which can give you maximum leverage.
Okay, so the name of the book is Identifying the Small
No,
Steps.
it is
Okay.
the fifth discipline.
Okay, sorry. So the fifth discipline. Okay, the
Yes.
fifth discipline by Peter Senge.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So next time I think I should have that thing in my notes before I get this thing wrong. So thank you, Kumaran. Thank you, Ram, for a very scintillating conversation. And you can find this podcast on ETI-Unplugged.in. And we are there on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Please don't forget to subscribe because that's how we know that you appreciate the input we are giving to you for your improvement and your understanding of how enterprise technology is going along. And Thank you and see you next time. Bye.